Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
Hey guys, welcome to Inspired. And today I'm going to be talking about a topic that I'm really passionate about, which is how to turn your dreams into reality. And I mean, it sounds a little generic. The truth is we all have dreams, and I think what we've learned at Thankyou and in our journey and our story could be summed up in this sentence that I saw once when I was sitting in a retailer waiting room. And I'm on the couch and I'm sitting there and I look on the wall and there's this quote. And it says, "An idea isn't worth much." And I'm sitting there about to pitch an idea and I'm thinking, this is discouraging. But it goes on to say, its value is found in its execution. And I think sometimes in the entrepreneurial space, we can get so excited by ideas. Teams, visionaries, we love ideas. The challenge, I think, for all of us, though, is to get as excited and focused on the execution. This idea I'm about to share with you began in 2008, and it began around a really simple concept of water. Now, I'm sitting at first year university. I'm 19 years old. I'm at my computer, and something kind of catches my eye on the side of my screen, and it said 900 million people in our world still don't have access to safe water. Now, at this point in my life, I'd sponsored a child through World Vision, and I thought I'd tick that box. I've done something really good for the world, and I'm focusing on my future, my career. I wanted to get into business, into property development, had kind of all these ideas. But as I read that number, it shocked me. I grew up in Melbourne, Australia. In Australia, we have 23 million people. So I'm like, how do you even consider 900 million people? What shocked me more, though, were the individual stories. And as I click on them and watch stories of kids spending half a day, some even a whole day walking to collect water for their family, I'm thinking, I've never had to do that before. The statistics say 4,500 children die each day from waterborne disease, which is a really confronting number. But I have this one moment where I'm literally at my computer and I'm crying because I'm thinking, like, what if that story was me? And I thought of my sisters, Jess and Mel. They're younger than me. And I thought, imagine walking every day to collect water for them, and then they die from waterborne disease. And then I find out it's the water that I got them that killed them. And I was wondering how you'd process that. And while that's not my story, the fact that it's some other young person's story in our world, it kind of made me feel a few things. The first was moved, and I think we've all been moved before. But the second thing I felt was overwhelmed, because I'm thinking, 900 million people. Like, what difference can one person make to a problem that big? And, my conclusion was not much until I saw this other number. And I'm not sure how your mind works, but for me, like, once I see something, I find it really hard to unsee it, which I'm not sure if that's a word, but it said, this is in 2008, globally, we are spending $50 billion on bottled water. Today, it's $157 billion. And I looked at these two numbers, I'm like, that's crazy. In Australia, tap water is really good. In fact, most Australians would say bottled water is a bit of a dumb product, and I'm kind of on that train as well. There's use for it in different countries and parts of the world. But it's this fascinating product because it's not really worth what we pay for it. But I had this idea. Well, what if there was a brand of bottled water that existed and gave 100% of the profit to funding water projects? And what if I, as one person, can't do much, but together we could? this whole idea of the collective consumer is powerful, and that was the idea. And in that moment, I was like, oh, yes, this could be huge. Take on the big brands, make a difference, change the world. And I remember telling my best mate Jared about the idea, and he loved it. In fact, he's like, bro, I'm in. And I was like, cool. And then I told my girlfriend Justine about it, and she said she was in. And I was like, this is awesome. Except I'm pretty sure that there'd be a book, some business book somewhere that says don't get into business with your best mate and your girlfriend. But we did both. And it has worked out pretty well. Justine and I are now married. She's our brand director, co-founder. Absolutely incredible. And Jared and I are still best mates, which is crazy. And we've grown up with this idea, but I'll never forget the beginning everyone said to us, you guys are so naive. And we didn't love the word. They thought the way we thought was kind of childish, and it was true. And I think right now as an organization, as we scale up, 46 products on the market, 50 staff and growing, we're actually fighting to keep the naivety. That sort of belief in the impossible. That what if it could work? And I think to sum it up, I mean, Jared's first question was classic. He's like, bro, how do you start a bottled water company? And I'm like I have no idea. And so we did something that you would do probably many times a day, but we didn't know how to start a bottled water company. And so we just Googled it. And Google was really good to us, right? Google says you need a factory, you need a bottle. So we're like, cool. Well, let's meet with factories and see what happens. And so we walk into these meetings looking really professional. We wore our parents' suits so we didn't look too young. And we'd say, like, we're going to change the world one bottle at a time. And factories would be looking at us like, you guys are crazy. You're up against the biggest beverage companies in the world. And they'd say things like, you have to do a minimum 2 million bottles a year to do business with us. And we'd say things like, yeah, okay, but what's the maximum you can do? They'd be like, 20 million bottles. We'd be like, oh, that's interesting. So we sort of write it down. And literally we are like nodding our head and we are smiling at every acronym they say. And we're walking out of these meetings like, this is huge. This is big business. This is going to take hundreds of thousands of dollars to get off the ground. But I'll never forget the fifth factory meeting. See, we walked in there and kind of knowing that this is big money to start. And we had about $1,000 between the three of us. And it seemed so impossible. But the fifth factory manager said he loved it. And he's like, I'm in. And we were like, oh, awesome. What does that mean? You're in. And he's like, I'll bottle your product for you, no upfront costs. You go sell it and then pay me the cost of goods when you can. We're like, that sounds pretty cool. And I still remember questions though in those meetings, like, can you call a brand or a product Thankyou? And we weren't too sure if you could. I think we said like someone called their product Apple. It sort of worked. And if you've ever seen our product online or bought it, you'll notice that next to Thankyou, we've actually trademarked it. And that's super exciting. And we trademarked it because I had a friend who just finished law school. And I asked him about trademarks. And I'm not sure how good this advice is, but he tells me that if no one's ever put a TM next to the word before, you can just put a TM there. I was like, really? So that's how we trademark Thankyou. We just stuck a TM there, stuck it on the product, and about 6 years later, got it registered with the good people at the trademarks office. But I suppose I tell you these stories because this is the beginning. This naivety, this belief in the impossible. With that factory manager on board, we walk into the largest distributor of beverages in our country, a group that work for Lipton Iced Tea, Red Bull, literally the biggest beverages in the world. And we walk into this pitch and I remember thinking, we're not getting it. because our factory manager said, you're not going to get it. And he wasn't trying to be discouraging, he was being realistic, because the way the industry works is you start small. You prove your model, and then you kind of work your way up, and maybe a group like that will be interested one day. And we walked in thinking, we're not going to get the deal, but we're going to turn up to this meeting anyway. Because like, what if there's a 1% chance? And even if we don't get it, I think we're going to learn something. And we did. We learned a heck of a lot that day. We're in there pitching, like passion, change the world. And to our shock, 1 hour into this meeting, after a lot of questions, the director's sitting at the board table. And he says, I'm going to take 50,000 units from you guys. How quick can you get it to me? And there's like a pause. And I'm like, give us about 3 weeks. And he was like, gee, that's quick. And I was like, yeah, we're pretty quick. We're pretty quick at Thankyou order. And I never forget the call to the factory manager, because I'm like, we got the deal. And he was the one who said, we're not going to get it. I'm like, 50,000 units. He's like, wow. I'm like, yeah, and we've got 3 weeks to deliver. And he's like, did they say that? I was like, oh no, we did. And he was pretty upset. But you know, at Thankyou, we always like, impossibility is only someone's opinion, not a fact. It's a great quote we love. It does turn out, though, that it is, in fact, impossible to make that many units in 3 weeks, in our case. But I think this kind of sums up our ambition. Nothing's impossible. Shoot for the stars, maybe hit the moon. And about 6 weeks later, product hits that distributor. And this is the beginning of an idea that could change the world forever. Ideas are powerful. I love ideas. But I mentioned they're not worth much. See, what happens next is kind of fascinating. We thought this was going to take off, and I still remember the day when we had a pallet of water delivered to my mum and dad's garage. We didn't have an office yet. And as we were unloading the product, our team went dead quiet. A third of all the product in every box, the label was scrunched on. And some to the point you couldn't even read it. And in our shock, we call up the factory, and it turned out the quality control guy was away when they ran our product. And we called the distributor, and they'd sent it into stores already. And so we find ourselves doing a product recall, and it takes 3 months. The product recall was like a false start. It wasn't our plan. And then we built up to 350 customers stocking the product, which was cool, but it...
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.